Hey guys, welcome to Wrenchin. My name is Ben and today I'm wrenching on my 94 Chevy K1500. I'm still working on the AC on this thing and I already replaced the mode door actuator that's down here by the gas pedal. I put a short up for that. If you want to see that, I'll link it on here. But today I'm going to work on the blend door actuator that's behind the vents here. You can get to it through the glove box, so I'm going to try and tackle that today. So let's get to it. So this is the part here. I got a cheap aftermarket part. I got them as a 2-pack on Amazon, so I will link that in the description. I will also link the Dorman part that replaces all 3 of the actuators. So there's one by the gas pedal, there's one behind the vents in the glove box here. There's also one down by the blower motor, but you have to take off that HVAC housing right there, and I've heard it's a pain, so I'm not gonna mess with that one. The one down there does the recirculation, and mine works fine. The reason I'm changing these out first, number 1, is because they're cheap, and number 2, because my compressor is working fine. So there's something else in my AC system that's causing the air to not blow cold, and I figured if I could get these for a 2-pack for 20 bucks, it's worth changing them out, and they're relatively simple to take out. All you need is a 7mm socket, so I will get to that and show you how I do it. So if you're like me, the first step is to take all the tapes out of your glove box. All right, now there's just 4 7mm screws, 2 on this side and 2 on this side. And with those out, we can carefully pull the back of this glove box out. You just got to get around these 2 tabs holding in those supports for the glove box cover. If you want to take this off, you want to be careful not to break this pin here, because that's a pain. You have to take this piece off, which is relatively easy to get off, and we're going to take that off anyway, but I'm going to go ahead and leave the door on. Here we go. And down there inside the glove box is the one that we're after. It's behind all this wiring. So it's this piece right here. It's got 2 screws, one on this side and one on the other side. I'm gonna see how easy it is to get to those, and I may need to unplug some other things, so you should probably disconnect the battery when you're doing this. So it's a little difficult to see, but that screw right there is the one that we're after, and then there's another one on the other side that's the same size. They're both 7mm screws. So I will go ahead and get this one off. I use the smallest ratchet I've got, but pretty much any one will work. So now the hardest part's just going to be getting to it. I can go ahead and disconnect this electrical connector. And I am going to go ahead and remove this plastic cover here for the tape deck. You want to be real careful removing these because you don't want to crack it. These are hard to replace. So I'll just gently pry this out. So I'll very gently take this off, and you have to be careful of these tabs up here. That's what you can break if you're not careful. And there we go. That wasn't too bad. And this tape deck's just got 2 7mm screws on the bottom of it. And with those out, we can take this tape deck out. And I'm actually just gonna try to rest it there so I don't have to unplug anything, because the screw that I'm trying to get to is right here, and I can get to it with an extension. And now I can reach right in here and get to that other screw. I put some magnets inside my socket, hoping that I will not drop that screw, but it's not too far to travel if it does fall. Now at this point, I should say that I don't think this part is bad, because I can control it. And when I unplugged it, the screen was flashing where that climate control is at. So the only reason I'm doing it is because I bought the parts and I want to cross this off before I resort to changing out large components like the compressor. So that other screw is sticking out right there. I put some neodymium magnets on the end of my mirror, and I can just grab that screw and turn it. And there we go. Got it out. Not too bad. And with this one, I can just use my socket and turn it by hand until I can get it off. All right, and there's that screw. So with both of those screws out, this will just pop right out. And we can double check and make sure the part looks the same and those flats are in the same orientation, which they are, so we're in good shape. And so I'll line this up, and it should just fit right in. And so of course, as I took this out, this piece turned on me a little bit, so I can get it. I can turn it manually and line it up, but when I let go, it just turns to the side. So since that peg is turned a little bit, what I need to do is get this notch to match up to this one right here. So I can plug in this actuator and turn the truck on, and I turn the climate control 1 click towards cold, and now this lines up where I want it, and now this slides right where I need it to be. That was an easy solution to what seemed to be a difficult problem, but now I'm ready to put everything back together. So I'll go ahead and try to feed these screws in and get them started by hand. Now all of these screws were 7mm screws and they're all the same size, but I have two that are flat on the end and the rest are sharp on the end. So I believe these flat ones go into the actuator. So I put a magnet on the end of one of these screws and I'll put it in my socket. That way it stays put. And I can go ahead and start this one and then get the magnet off before I tighten it down. That way it's a little bit easier to get to. And if your magnet gets stuck on the screw because that was a terrible idea, you can use a pick to get it out. Alright, so I did fish my magnet back out. In retrospect, the magnets were a little bit more of a pain than they were help, so maybe don't use the magnets. But I got that side started, and I'll work on the other side. I'm going in through where the radio was on this one, and it's a lot easier to get to through here. Alright, I set that screw in. Now I'll just make sure that I get my socket on it real nice. Using one hand to steady my socket on the screw, and the other hand to turn it. It's actually easier to just turn the socket manually. Alright, so there's one. Alright, and I got both screws tightened down. Everything looks good. So I can go ahead and plug it in and test it. And as I turn my climate controls from hot to cold, you can see that actuator moving, so it is working. And it's moving as much as it should. So now I know that works. So now I can put the tape deck back, make sure these holes line up, and make sure that the clips for the cover are still in a good spot. And I'm wondering if those flat screws went to this radio. I almost think they did. But these will work. So I'll go ahead and tighten these down. Side note, if you have a tape deck, you can get a Bluetooth cassette. I got this one for like 20 bucks on Amazon. It's got a power button here. You gotta hold it for a couple seconds, so I have to eject the tape, hit that power button, and then put the tape in. But I have Bluetooth controls to listen to Spotify or whatever, and my tape deck, which is pretty sweet. And a little side note, I'm gonna try some wood glue on this insulation here and see if that'll hold it down. And if so, I will include this in this video. And if it doesn't, I'll just cut it out. All right, and it looks like that might work. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some more in the rest of this. Just a little bit will do. I'll give that some time to dry to make sure it's gonna work. And then I'll put that cover back on. All right, so that looks fine. I'm gonna go ahead and put this cover back in, put those clips in the top first, and then just snap this bottom side down where those fasteners are. So the only thing left is to put this cover back in. Really ought to clean this before I put it back in, but I don't really ever get in here, so I kind of don't care. Well, I thought I had an LED bulb to replace this one, but I don't have one on hand, so I will link that in the description in case you want to change that out to an LED while you're in here. But you can just set the bottom in, and then wedge the top in where it goes, and then just line up your screws, and then tighten them all down. Alright, there we go. And the last step is to put all my cassette tapes back. A very important step. And with that, we are done. Alright guys, so that is how to change out the blend door actuator on your OBS Chevy truck. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.